lawsuits related to Trump's cancellation of DACA. And then that was resolved by the Supreme Court, who said, no, Trump, you, when trying to cancel the program, did it in a proper way. So we want to restore DACA to what it was before you tried to cancel it, and then move on. Simultaneously, there's been this different lawsuit that's speaking to the legality of DACA, meaning that it's different from the Supreme Court decision, because Supreme Court was just about Trump's attempt to cancel it, but they didn't talk about whether DACA was legal or not. So Obama, when he created or announced the program, he did it by executive order. And when a president takes action under executive order, there is the possibility that a future president could similarly remove the program under executive order. And what this lawsuit in 2018, it was Texas, along with, I believe, 8 or 9 other states, brought this lawsuit saying, well, when Obama tried to start the program, it was illegal from the start. And so now there was a judge in Texas back in December who heard oral arguments about this question about the legality of DACA. Is DACA actually a legal program in the first place? And so this judge, most recently, he had a status conference just asking for more evidence. And any day now, we're kind of holding our breath for him to make a decision about whether DACA is a legal program in the first place. At the same time, so that's one piece. The other big piece, of course, is new legislation. There's something called the Dream and Promise Act, which allows for a pathway to citizenship for those who have DACA or people who are eligible for their definition of dreamers. And it's passed the House of Representatives back in March. And right now it's before the Senate, and they haven't held a vote yet. And we're not sure when that's going to happen. And so that's kind of the competing interest of, we have this pending lawsuit to decide if DACA is legal in the first place, while at the same time, we're waiting on Congress to put DACA into law, because like I said, DACA was started by a president under executive order and it's not legal status. So we're really leaning on Congress to make a law that puts something similar to DACA as the law of the land, to provide some hopeful status for people who have DACA. So let's go back to this lawsuit. It's a challenge to the DACA. It's different from the Supreme Court. The judge most recently had a status conference, and basically Texas, who brought the lawsuit, said, Judge Hannon is his name. Judge Hannon, it's no point waiting for the Senate because, you know, they're dragging their feet. Please make a decision on this case. And so, Wendy, if you could go to the next slide, this is kind of where we're at this point. It's a question as to whether the judge is going to wait on Congress to act on the Dream and Promise Act, or it's going to decide about whether or not DACA is legal or not. And unfortunately, the truth of the matter is, if he finds that DACA is an illegal program and agrees with Texas and these other states, that it puts the future in a difficult situation, in peril. We don't know the practical effect if he rules against the legality of DACA and says, yes, it's not a legal program. So what that means, but part of it might be that there is some restrictions to DACA, or it might be taken away. So everyone in the advocacy community is holding their breath, because while we've had some great wins with DACA, it's still in a very uncertain and in a very unstable place. So for us, our number one message is to be opportunistic and take advantage of the fact that DACA, as it stands now, is available. And those who had DACA to continue to renew on time, and those who have not had DACA is to really put together an application. Make sure you check and make sure your eligibility requirements are there. And we definitely strongly encourage meeting with an attorney or credit representative to have it properly put together, organized, and show the strength of eligibility to apply, but to not hesitate, because we're not sure what the near future of DACA holds. So that's where we are with the program in the near future. There is a lot of uncertainty, and as a result, we at ICS, and I'm sure a lot of other legal practitioners and people in the supporter community will just say, just try to take advantage with DACA and Advance Parole while the opportunity is there.
Brilliant. And I'm going to talk a little bit about DACA, Dreamers in general, and student aid. Because we have about 3 different university groups present today, we know that this is a question that is often brought up. Unfortunately, undocumented students and Dreamers don't have access or aren't even eligible for federal student aid. However, there are a lot of states and even colleges themselves who have specific programs just for Dreamers and just for students that are in a more unstable or uncertain immigration status. So one of the basic guidelines is if you are undocumented and want to go to college, or if you're a dreamer and are looking into ways to pay for college, definitely reach out to your university and the federal the financial aid office at your university themselves. Like here, for example, we have students from the University of Oregon and OSU, and I know that both of those universities, they have funds and they have pages dedicated to give more information to Dreamers about how to pay for college despite their status, and how to access scholarships despite their status. And of course, like we're very, here in Oregon, we're very lucky. Oregon itself has a different version of FAFSA. It's called the Oregon Student Aid Application. It can be found online, and it's going to be made available this October for the upcoming school year. So to all of our Dreamers out there, please make sure that you complete that because that is money that Oregon is providing for DACA students. And of course, and I think like that in itself, the fact that, you know, Dreamers aren't eligible for federal student aid, that speaks loudly to the kind of place that we are in. And in the meantime, while we wait for Congress to make some affirmative and really progressive movements on immigration reform, there are things that we can do, especially for young people today. It is imperative and it is so crucial that we advocate for ourselves, but also for our neighbors, for our friends, for our family members. So go knock on doors, canvas, right? So oh, that was a concerning sound behind me. Don't worry, I have other people here who will take care of it. But yeah, like I was saying, please make sure to keep advocating and to keep pressing Congress members to move forward with comprehensive reform that not only addresses issues with Dreamers, but also for other undocumented folks in our communities. And we know that Selby himself spoke about the cost of the application. It's $495 for your initial, but your renewal. So that means that every 2 years, Dreamers are paying $495. Already, folks with uncertain immigration statuses, they're in pretty vulnerable positions. They don't always have the highest paying jobs. And here at Immigration Counseling Service, we understand that the price of the application itself, it is a cost barrier. It is a financial barrier. And that is why we have created the Immigrant Legal Relief Fund. So we are asking our community to come together to really make these larger donations to pay for these filing fees. So whenever community members donate to the Immigrant Legal Relief Fund, that money goes directly to paying for a USCIS application. So those $495, the Immigrant Legal Relief Fund will pay for it. If you are interested in applying for DACA for the first time, if you have a family member that may be interested, if you are thinking of applying for Advance Parole, please reach out to us. In the chat, you will find our number and my email. Reach out. I'd love to connect and give you more information about how we can begin your process to be contracted with ICS. And now we're going to open up the floor. We have about 20 minutes for any more questions. I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
So there are 2 questions here in the chat. I'm sorry, the Q&A, I should say. One question is whether or not this is for the lawsuit, I'm assuming. Is it illegal because it didn't go to vote across the country? And the answer is no, actually. It's more a challenge to Obama making the announcement for the executive order for the DACA program, if he was empowered to do so in the first place. That's kind of the legal question related to that Texas lawsuit. It kind of gets to the heart of whether or not it could have been created to begin with. Next question. Since Oregon passed a law where undocumented people can get licenses, does that mean as a DACA recipient, I can get an 8-year license too, or do I need continue to get the 2-year license issued? That's a DMV question. I actually just went to a DMV liaison meeting not too long ago. So what we were told is there's 2 types of licenses in the state of Oregon. There's a standard license and the Real ID compliant license. If you have DACA eligibility and you have the employment authorization document, also known as a work permit or permiso de trabajo, that gives you a 2-year validity. And for 2 years, you could get the Real ID. Whereas now in Oregon, the standard license is something you can apply for 8 years. Of course, that big difference is that when federal agencies will start using the Real ID requirement, which I think they just pushed again to May 2023. For example, you wouldn't be able to use your standard license to go through TSA as proof of identity to get on an airplane. But the main question here is, where undocumented, that means as a DACA recipient, I can get an 8-year license too. And the answer is no. You're as a DACA recipient, it's good for 2 years. You could get the Real ID license for 2 years, or you could just get the standard license for 8 years. Hopefully that's clear. Isaac, did you want to add anything to that?
No, Selby, I think you knocked it out.
Okay. Next question, do you have to live in Portland to use your services? Do you want to answer that, Isaac?
Sure, yeah, the answer is no. We serve all of Oregon and Southern Washington. We're actually holding a clinic in the Rogue Valley, Medford, Phoenix, and Talent, Friday, Saturday, Sunday to assist families who are unfortunately the victim of wildfires. And we have an office in Hood River, and then we work with partners in Albany, Medford, Redmond, etc. So we're here to service all Oregonians, and we'd be happy to work with you wherever you live.
Next question, what would the pathway to residency citizenship look like for the Dream and Promise Act? If passed, from what I understand, for the legislation in its current iteration, which of course could have some changes on the Senate floor, but as what I've last read, is that if passed, it would allow for people who have DACA immediately to be eligible for a green card or legal permanent resident status or card. And then within 3 years of having that card, they could then apply for citizenship. Now there's a lot of different bills happening. The Dream and Promise Act is the one that more recently passed through the House of Representatives. There's another bill that also passed through the House specific to farm workers. But another more prominent one is called the Citizenship Act of 2021. And that is a little distinct from this one that we're talking about because it includes millions of undocumented people, not just dreamers. And I think that provides like a longer wait time for the green card and citizenship process. But this is kind of the negotiations taking place to put something on the floor to be up for a vote. But that's a good question. But the Dream and Promise Act, it would be a home run because it would be an immediate opportunity to apply for the green card and 3 years later apply for citizenship if passed in its current iteration.
I agree with Selby, and it's politics, so we don't know what the final version would look like. Should we get a final version? Definitely stay tuned. And we'll also see too about like what the cost will be involved, because often, as Wendy alluded to, cost can be a significant barrier for a lot of folks trying to get through the system.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if you guys answered it already. Can you disclose your pricing for new applicants? That might have to do with like our own legal services. So just for the knowledge of the people tuning in, we are a nonprofit. We don't work on a pro bono, we work on a low bono model. However, we do not believe that cost should be a barrier to applying for a benefit that you qualify for. So if you come to us and do the consult and one of our legal workers says you qualify for this benefit, if you say I can't pay at this moment, we'll find a way to get that money. We are connected with a lot of community partners. So other organizations who we can call up and say, we have this person here, do you have scholarships available? Do you have grants available? For Mexican nationals, for example, you can reach out to the consulate and they sometimes have funds available to cover either your legal fees or to cover the application. So very much do not let cost be the thing that prevents you from reaching out to an attorney to see whether you can apply for a service. Because these applications, they take months to put together, then they take months to process. So while we put your application together, we can put you on a payment plan. Our legal workers are very flexible around payment because we know that the sooner that we start with your application, the better. Like the sooner that application gets to the door of USCIS, the easier your life will become. So like I said, don't let pricing, don't let money be the thing that holds you back.
Yeah, well said, Wendy. And we, like she mentioned too, we have lots of partners, Pride Foundation, et cetera. And right now in our office, we're waiving all consultation fees. That's in response to the COVID-19 pandemic and the effect it's had on so many in our communities. So there's literally no barrier to speaking with us other than the fact that we just only have so many people. So we have some scheduling challenges, but we'll make time for you. Please come talk to us and then we can work on pricing. We don't charge much because we're a nonprofit, but we can even go lower as needed if you have special challenges in your life. And oftentimes that's where it is. You know, we help you get through, you can get that work card, you can get yourself established, and the next go around, you can come back to us and pay full price, or you can go to a private practitioner as your life allows. But we want to make it work for you. We know everyone's gone through a lot in the last year and change. So just come meet with us and be frank, and we'll do the best we can to meet your needs.
I could say, since I work in the general programs and I'm the one who tends to do all of the new screenings for interested initial DACA applicants, we have been prioritizing DACA applicants to the front of the line for us to do screening based on what I've told all of you, is that there's a window of opportunity and we want to capitalize on it. And so as a agency, we've really committed ourselves to try and serve as many people as we can and make sure cost isn't an issue. Last year, we did this whole May Day clinic where we covered the fees for folks in an effort to try and get through as many applications as we can. And so we waived something to the effect of tens of thousands of dollars of services that we just forgave. And then for us for this year, we're also making a commitment to waive consultation fees as well. So me personally, when working with somebody, it's not about the money, it's about at least seeing someone's eligibility. And if interested in working with us, we want to help you get organized even before you pay a cent, so that we can give you correct information, because that's really our priority, is to make sure you have the information you need to succeed, whether you work with us or not.
And we have about 5 minutes left. So if you have, if folks have any other questions, please go ahead and drop them in the chat. If we don't have questions, and we'll end a little bit earlier. And in the chat, you will find our plug for social media. This is one of many presentations that we host throughout the year. In the future, we'll have more sessions on Know Your Rights, on how to prepare for immigration raids, on how to handle any ICE interactions. So please follow us on Twitter and Instagram, ICS_PDX, and then on Facebook, it is ICS.PDX.
I think I see another question about other services offered by our office. And basically, we do all immigration related legal work that doesn't involve employment. So we have a department that services children that come to the US by themselves and are placed under federal detention in one manner or another, often called unaccompanied children or minors. So we represent those children in Oregon. We have a removal program, so people in deportation court. I spend a lot of my time there trying to fight to keep families together through the courtroom process. We do work for human trafficking victims, victims of domestic violence, and other serious crimes. And then of course we do family-based visas, you know, spouses, parents, children, et cetera. And then the waivers and pardons that sometimes are necessary for those applications. So we kind of do the gambit, and we can help with all those things. So if you were to make a consultation with us, you're not limited just to DACA. You can kind of talk about your whole experience and what your goals are, and then we'll try to figure out a pathway to those, to meet those goals.
So we have a few more minutes. Any last questions? We will hang around. But definitely we want to say thank you all for being here tonight. Since we have a lot of students, we know that spending a whole day doing classes on Zoom and then jumping on another pretty informational presentation can be a little tough. So we appreciate you wanting to learn, because we know that you're going to use this information and take it back to your communities. So like I mentioned, this is one of many presentations. If you have any questions that weren't answered during this presentation, please feel free to reach out. You can email me directly at wroman@ics-law.org. On our website, we also have a contact us page with more information about our services. Our website has a pretty in-depth overview of what we're trying to do as an organization. So thank you all for being here. If we don't have any more questions, I think we're going to end it here. Thank you to Here to Stay at OSU, definitely, for bringing up this idea and inviting us to host alongside them. So yeah, thank you to Isaac and Selby. We appreciate your time so greatly, and your knowledge and your experience that you bring forth. So without further ado, I think we're going to call it a night.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great night.